Morning, y'all. Welcome back to the Piney Woods Homestead. I'm going to take y'all along with me as we go through all the gardens, and I'll kind of give you updates on what I have been pleased with, what I haven't. I had planned to do garden tours throughout the summer, but between harvesting and preserving, it just kind of slipped by. So we'll take you along now and show you what we've got. The tomatoes, we're getting towards the end of the season for us. They could actually keep producing until frost, but disease is starting to get through them. The stink bugs have been atrocious, and basically nothing is killing them. But we're going to keep harvesting for a while longer on the reds, but I'll take you through and kind of show you. This front row was a mixture variety because my tags got mixed up, because yes, it does still happen. These are Homestead, a few celebrities, and a few Tachis. These have done okay. This row is half Red Snapper. This was my first year with these. I will forever ever grow them. They are huge, pretty fruits. They have survived where some have split from the excess rains that we've had. These have not. And the far end down there, can't remember. I've got a tag. Can't remember. But you can see I could go through and trim these back, but I'm just letting them go, and we'll get what we get off of them from here on. And I pull mine when they start blushing. This one's actually went a little further than that. Once the foliage gets this thick, it's easy to miss them. And then I'll just take the stem off and put them in the shop to let them finish ripening. That's a good pretty one. I can tell you, I have these as well as well over half of another row of the Tachi Paste. My first year with those, I wanted to try a different paste variety. This one sounded great. I'm not impressed. I will not grow these again. And yes, it has been a hard season all the way around, but I'm basing it on from the time I started the seeds through the transplant period. These and the Amish paste were both they germinated great, but they were very finicky, the most finicky tomato plants I've ever grown. So I will not be adding these, and they have not done as well as, and again, it could be the weather, but they haven't done as well as I was expecting. This half row is Homestead. The other half is the Red Snapper. Both of these varieties are supposed to be determinants, meaning 5 foot tall, maxed out. As you can see all the way through, they've gotten beyond that and broke over, and they're also still blooming. Determinants normally bloom and set their fruit all at the same time. But the Homestead, they've done okay. Not one that I will keep again for next year. So good. And y'all, we've got tons and tons of green tomatoes, and I don't know if where you guys are it's been super hot, but if they're really slow to turn, and it's because of the extreme heat that we've had. This week has been around 100 with a heat index of 105, so it's really slowed them down. And if nothing else, when it comes time to rip these up, I'll have a lot of green tomatoes to put up. And these are the Amish paste, which is an heirloom. One of the only 2 heirlooms that I grew this year. They have great big paste tomatoes, but going back again, this was the other super finicky plant. And heirlooms are finicky, but the Tachi is not an heirloom, and it was the same way. I will probably not grow the Amish paste again next year, and I'm just going to go strictly with hybrids for my paste tomatoes. And to clarify one thing, because I think there's a lot of confusion out there, you see a lot of seed companies marketing their seeds as non-GMO. There are no GMO tomatoes. The only GMO seeds that are out there are for alfalfa, for beet cane, field corn, which is for the agricultural industry. There are not GMO seeds sold to the home gardener. So it's kind of a marketing thing, but if you're searching for non-GMO seeds, you're going to be getting that. As far as the hybrids versus the heirlooms, I used to grow a ton of heirlooms. I have kind of switched more towards hybrids, went back to the bulk of my paste this year as an heirloom. I can tell you, I'll be sticking with hybrids. And the main thing is, the hybrids are not, it's not that they're bad. They're not genetically modified. For the tomatoes, they have taken 2 tomato varieties, crossed them together to create like the Red Snapper. And they're done that way so they have a better disease resistance package and productivity. And that's what we need, is a lot of produce. So I'm going to be going back to a lot more of them, and doing away. Probably the only heirlooms that I'm going to continue to grow will be my black cream. And I will actually be cutting those back next year. There is also a new hybrid black cream that I'm going to try out next spring, because black cream is my absolute favorite. The weather that we have anymore just does not, the heirlooms struggle. My black cream are normally the biggest tomatoes I ever grow. This year they've been the smallest, and I've gotten the least from them in this whole entire row. And this is one of my black creams that's just starting to turn. You can see how small this is. A normal black cream that I have always produced has been as big as the Red Snappers, if not bigger. They're usually a pound or so in weight. And that is not, that's maybe 2 ounces. So I'll still grow a few next year, but I'm probably going to get some of the hybrid that's supposed to be just like the black cream. Our peppers, the best ones that are going are the habaneros, and Matthew wanted a lot of those. We have a ton of them. And the cayennes, I've slowly been getting those off as they turn. The time bombs have done pretty well. The poblanos are not fantastic. For the size plants, they're as tall as me. There's little fruit. This was a new variety of bells for me this year. Again, could be weather related, but I'm not taking my chances in the future. They're not a traditional bell pepper shape. And out of all this whole row that is over my height tall, I've maybe gotten maybe 10. Same thing with the jalapenos. I've been getting small enough batches to do about a half a batch of cowboy candy at a time. They are starting to put on a few more, but still slow.
I think it's the weather. I think the extreme heat.
Yeah, the weather has
early
not
drought
been. The weather has not been.
here.
But this was also a new variety of jalapenos to me.
Yeah.
I normally stick with my bells and my jalapenos, and generally most of my tomatoes I stick with what I know works. And this year I experimented a lot with some new varieties.
You have putting up a lot of pepperoncinis.
Yeah, they've done fairly well. Not a lot, but we only had 2, 3, 5 plants of those. So for what I've had, they have done well. For, you know, half of this row being bell peppers And you know, they're getting a few little ones, but not fantastic. The one thing that's going really good down here is the beans that we got planted after we lost all the corn. So we've got our green beans, more of the October beans, and a whole lot of Mississippi purple hulls. So hopefully they're going to keep doing good, but they're really growing well. Alright, we're going to head up now to the raised beds, and I'll show you what we've got going on there, what's done good and what hasn't. The one really good thing we had was our watermelon patch. Out of 6 plants, I got, I think, 13. They averaged anywhere from 22 to 28 pounds, and there's still another 6 or 8 that are out here growing. So that did really well. The one thing that we did here was that watermelons really do best in new ground where they've never grown before. So that's why we planted them here, and it definitely made a difference because we've never been able to get them this big. And this is our Star of David okra. It is an heirloom. This, I normally just stick with red burgundy, but I wanted to try this. And this is about, beyond bigger than this, they're going to get tough. But we have absolutely loved them. This little row has produced about 10 to 12 pods every day for weeks now. So it's been our heavier producer over the red burgundy, which is normally our heavy producer. But I will say, this is the most prickliest okra I have ever picked. And a lot of our raised beds have already been pulled up. This was our acorn squash. I've already harvested all of them, and we were gonna pull these up, but they got new shoots starting out, and we have several. There's just 2 right here. There's 3 or 4 over there. So I'm gonna let these go a little bit longer before we completely pull them up. Our volunteer pumpkin patch that we had coming out of the compost pile, as you can tell, it's pretty much gone. We discovered the other evening that it was home to a black racer, and that's probably where, actually that is where the breeders' eggs were going. So Matthew came through, mowed it all up. There was only a few T90 ones on there, one about the size of a tomato, but at this late in the season, it was best, and for snake purposes, best to just go ahead and clean them all up. And this is our red burgundy okra. And when it cooks up, it'll turn green, just like regular okra. But it has a really good flavor, and the really great thing about this kind is you can let it get 10 inches long, and it does not get woody. So if you miss a picking, it's not a waste. And this bed was our replant of Blue Lake bush beans. Matthew showed a few videos back right after we had planted it, where we had just a massive downpour. So a lot of the seeds just got drowned, and this was the only stand that we had left. This bed would normally be packed full, and he wanted to go through and replant, but because this bed is going to be used for some of my fall crops, I said leave it be, and we're just going to get what little bit we get off of this. But since we do have more in the in-ground garden, then you know, it'll work out. It won't be like I'm just getting a small batch right here. I'll get it, because they'll be about the same time harvest window too. Get down there to it. And this bed was our succession planting of the Paddy pan moonbeams. We had the far bed back there full of them, and then we did this bed. We have already harvested and froze a massive amount. We've got a year's worth, and these are just starting to produce. So all of this I'm saving and giving to my in-laws, so they'll have some to enjoy through the winter too. This was my tasty box melon, which were supposed to be in my little personal size 1 pound melons that ended up being 3.5 pounds. They've done fabulous. This is a good disease resistant variety. It is a hybrid. It is starting to, you can see the leaves. It's on its last legs, but there's only, well, there's about 6 or 8 more. I've already pulled at least 15. And there's some more little side shoots coming out with more, but we'll be pulling these up once I get ready to put the fall crops in these beds. So I'm not worried about the disease on them right now, and just happy that we got all that we did off of them. And the one thing with these, I've never been able to grow cantaloupes, and as you can tell, this variety has done really well. So I will keep these again for the future, just because we love fruit, and I have froze all of it for us to enjoy throughout the winter. This pepper patch has been my saving grace to getting any type of peppers for this summer. And this is a little compact, they're a Hungarian pepper, but they're like a sweet pepper, like a bell, and these have been loaded. They're tapering out now, but we'll forever grow these. And this one was called Orangey Sweet. It would eventually turn completely orange. And then those over there were right on red. And I normally let them go till they're turned colors, but we'll probably end up pulling some of these green. Thanks for hanging out with me today as we went around the gardens and showed you what I was happy with this year, what I wasn't. Again, I know it's been a hard growing season for everybody everywhere, but there are some varieties that have stood out to me through this really rough growing season. But anyways, y'all have a good day and a great week, and we'll see you on the next one.